The most recent update to Mario Kart World made one singular change to the game, but it isn't anything that improves it in any way. World wides have not been changed at all, nothing about the item system is different, battle mode hasn't been expanded upon, and it isn't even the deletion of Peach Beach, which is a real shame. Instead, there is one thing written in the patch notes that reads, "Fixed an issue where if a player disconnects and reconnects a controller, the game may not progress as normal." Now, you may be able to figure out what that means if you've been keeping an eye on the world record scene in this game, but if not, you should stick around, because today I will explain exactly what this change is and why it is actually significant for a select few Mario Kart World players, along with what could have happened if this change was never made. To briefly summarise, this update has basically patched a glitch in the game that was discovered a few weeks ago that allowed you to go out of bounds but not get picked up by Lacto. In order to perform said glitch, you had to constantly disconnect and reconnect two separate controllers, hence the patch note, and keep exiting and re-entering the game as you loaded into a track. If you want to see exactly how it was performed, then there are several videos on YouTube that go into detail, but for now that is all you need to know. Now you may think that maybe this glitch could have been used to take unintended shortcuts in time trials, such as just jumping off the track immediately on the right on Great Question Block Ruins to land way further ahead on the track. But if you tried that, then you'd realise that it doesn't count a lap if you go into any out of bounds section during a run. What was instead first found actually didn't involve the Lacto bug at all, but rather a different usage of disconnecting and reconnecting the controller when starting a time trial. On Mario Bros Circuit, the very first shortcut has a few piles of tyres in front of it, so players have always had to charge jump into the sign on the left to bounce over the tyres to make it onto the rail without using a mushroom. However, it was possible to start a run with the tyres already being spread out across the floor, allowing you to just jump directly onto the rail. This was done by knocking over the tyres in a previous run, then watching the replay and pressing restart at a certain point, whilst also doing the controller reconnection tricks like before. As a result of this being found, 4 new world records were set on the track, with the fastest one saving 546 milliseconds over the non-glitch world record. Of course, this meant that Mario Kart World now had a glitch category for world records, something that never occurred in Mario Kart 8 or 8 Deluxe. There was one other track that managed to get a glitched world record before this update dropped, which was Crown City. This one was a lot crazier and actually did make use of the Lacto bug, but not in a way you'd expect. After entering an out of bounds zone, you would have to pause and press restart, then do the controller reconnection trick again. When you then loaded into the track, the cars would be driving on the road like normal, but the camera wouldn't move and the countdown wouldn't start. However, your character still had a hitbox, so whenever a car would drive into you, it would cause your vehicle to get pushed upwards and then respawn slightly further ahead of where it was before. As a result, if you waited long enough, you could reconnect your controller one last time and then start the race in a position way further forward than you're supposed to, giving you an immediate advantage over the non-glitch world record. And 2 days before the update happened, Pluto managed to get a world record using this glitch, and it was done by waiting 21 hours before starting the run, which if you ask me is absolute cinema. Of course, since the update has now happened, there can be no more glitch world records set in the game, unless something completely new is found in the future. However, there were a few more potential uses of this glitch, because it could manipulate many other cycle-based objects on other tracks, but not just by pushing you to a position further forward at the start. So for the rest of the video, I'm going to describe how some other tracks had potential to be broken if the update didn't happen. As you may have noticed, the only 2 tracks that were successfully broken are the first 2 tracks in the game, and it so happens that the 3rd track in the game also could have had a glitched world record. Whistle Stop Summit has one moving element on the track, which of course is the massive train that goes along the rails. Whilst it can have an impact in online races, at world record level in time trials it might as well not exist. There is absolutely no interaction with it for the entire run. This is because the cycle it is on makes no difference to the lines you take. It is never in the way, but equally it is never in a position you can benefit from. However, being able to move where the train is at a certain point in the run would change this, because there was a method found for the final shortcut that involves riding on top of the train and charge jumping off the boost ramp to get onto the final rail. This saves around half a second over the current world record strategy, and it's not quite as annoying to set up as Crown City was, because you didn't need to wait 21 hours for an attempt. Instead, you could wait around 4 seconds before starting the run, which I would say is a bit more manageable. So theoretically, a glitch category could have and likely would have been created for Whistle Stop Summit at some point if the glitch was never patched. But to be fair, the world record holder Jorge is already 0.9 ahead of second place, so it probably would have been very hard for anyone else to even use the glitch to get a world record run. Now, not every track that is affected by this glitch can make an impact to world records, but I will briefly mention them anyway. DK Pass has snowboarder Shy Guys on the final turn that make no difference to any race ever, but if you really wanted to, you could have used the glitch to change when they would and wouldn't appear. This would have given you absolutely no benefit in any way whatsoever, which is also the case if you decided to do the glitch on Sky High Sunday, because the spinning ice cream at the end could have also been interfered with. Again, it would have been absolutely useless, but it is still in the short list of things you could have done, so I thought I should bring it up. But now let's get back to actually interesting information. The Shy Guys on DK Pass may have been useless, but on Peach Beach they have coins that trail behind them as they ride around on the water. At the moment, the world record gets 4 coins in this section out of the 6 that are there, so of course if you could get 5 or 6 coins on a different cycle, then that would be an automatic time gain across the rest of the run. Well, it was found that if you waited around 15 seconds using the glitch, then the coins behind the jet skis would be positioned in a way to get these extra coins without losing any time. Since the coins in this game don't make a huge difference, the time gain in this glitch category wouldn't have been overly significant, but any time saved from a glitch would have qualified for a glitch world record if it was ever implemented. From one water section to another, Salty Speedway begins the race in a water stream that has the occasional boat sail through it. This has been an inconvenience for me in the past because sometimes on lap 3 it gets directly in the way of where I want to go. However, it could have actually been useful if the boats were on a different cycle. If you did the glitch and waited for around 1 minute and 13 seconds, then the boat would be directly in front of you as you started the race. And since there is a ramp at the back of the boat, you could have used it to get onto the ledge on the left without having to do the charge jump that the world record does. Once again, it wouldn't have saved much time, but it still would have made an impact, now making it 5 tracks that had a method to exploit this glitch at world record level. Sadly, there is only one other track that has moving objects affected by the glitch, which is Dino Dino Jungle. The dinosaur cycles could have been manipulated, and there were a few theorized strategies to make use of the dinosaurs being in different positions, but there was never anything that was definitely faster than the current world record strategies. But with more time, who knows what could have been found. I do think it's worth a mention that it might have come in handy to avoid a potential pace lock on lap 2, as the current world record gets very close to the blue dinosaur before the final turn. If any new tricks are found to save some more time on this track, then this dinosaur could become a problem. However, if you could have delayed the cycle by even half a second with the glitch, then this problem may have been removed. But of course, I can't be totally sure that this would have been applicable now that the glitch has been patched out of the game. Now you might think that is the end of potential glitch world record categories, but there are actually 2 more tracks that don't have any affected moving objects that still had potential to be added to the glitch category. One of these is Cheap Falls, and I don't really understand this one at all. For some reason, when you do the glitch here and just leave it for a while, your character will be pushed up the ramp very slowly. There is nothing that physically pushes you, it just kind of happens, and theoretically you could have saved a very small amount of time if you started the race about a car length ahead than normal. The start of this track is weird anyway because you have to instantly hop over the ledge to land as early as possible, so if you had to wait for what would have been nearly 2 hours for just one attempt, it would have been very easy to just immediately fail and have to wait for another 2 hours for another attempt. In other words, no sane human would have ever implemented this, I don't think, given how difficult the track is on its own anyway, but technically this track did have potential for a glitch world record category. The final track in the video actually uses the same glitch as Mario Bros Circuit, but this time it might have only saved 1 or 2 frames across the entire run and definitely wouldn't have been done anytime soon. Wario Stadium has tyres in the final shortcut, but since you use a mushroom there anyway, it doesn't really block your path at all. You could try doing the shortcut without a mushroom if you move the tyres, but there isn't any better spot elsewhere to use your mushroom anyway, making that idea useless. However, it has been theorised that maybe you could have moved the tyres into a position that lets you bounce off one of them to take a tighter line, with theorised being the key word in that sentence. It has not been proven at all to be faster and would likely have never been done in a world record thanks to how insignificant it would be, but I still thought I would mention it as a little extra bit at the end of the video. And that is all the glitches that may have been possible using controller disconnection tricks before the update happened. I will leave a link in the description to the documents that were made about these glitches if you want to read about how they were done and what was tested, but to be fair, there isn't much use in it now that Nintendo dropped the update. In fact, this entire video is kind of pointless. None of what has been mentioned is possible anymore, so I guess I'll just ask you to subscribe to the channel and leave it at that. Thanks for watching.